There's a specific kind of person who walks into every room and instantly becomes the responsible one. The fixer. The one everyone calls at 2 a.m. And most people assume they were just born mature. They weren't. Something happened to them long before they were old enough to understand it, and by the time they became adults, they were already running on empty. Not because adulthood is hard, because they'd already been doing adulthood's hardest emotional work since they were 7, 8, 9 years old. Here's the unsettling part. Psychologists can now identify this pattern with disturbing accuracy. Just from how someone handles stress, rest, and asking for help as an adult. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot it too, possibly in someone you know, possibly in yourself. Stay till number 4. It's the twist that explains why these people struggle to do something that sounds impossibly simple, resting. And don't leave before the final section, because it reveals something about this pattern that almost nobody talks about. Let's start with the term psychologists use for this: parentification. It sounds clinical, but here's what it actually means. A child taking on adult-level responsibility long before their brain is developmentally ready for it. Sometimes it's obvious. Raising younger siblings, managing a household during a parent's illness or addiction, translating adult paperwork for parents who don't speak the language. But sometimes it's invisible, becoming your own parent's emotional support system, their therapist, their stabilizer, at age 10. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The child usually has no idea it's happening. There's no dramatic moment where childhood visibly ends. It disappears quietly, one small responsibility at a time, until one day there simply isn't room left for them to be a kid anymore. And the strangest part? Most of these children grow into the most put-together adults in the room. Which raises an uncomfortable question we're about to answer. What does competence actually cost when it's built this early? They didn't lose their childhood all at once. It was traded away, one responsibility at a time, without anyone noticing, including them. Here's where this gets genuinely strange from a neuroscience standpoint. Growing up around unpredictable adults, inconsistency, conflict, addiction, financial chaos, trains a child's nervous system to constantly scan for danger. Psychologists call this hypervigilance. If a child could sense their parents' anger building 3 minutes before it exploded, they could prepare, protect a sibling, or diffuse it. That skill kept the household functioning. But here's the unsettling twist, that survival wiring doesn't switch off just because the danger is gone. Many of these people grow into adults who can't relax in objectively safe rooms. Adults who feel a low hum of alertness at dinner parties, at work meetings, even on vacation, because their nervous system never received the memo that it's allowed to stand down. So when someone says, "I don't know why I'm always tired," there's usually a real answer. Their body has been on high alert since childhood, and it's still waiting for an emergency that already ended years ago. Now here's where it gets almost paradoxical. The very trait that makes these people impressive, their competence, their reliability, their ability to handle anything, is often the same trait quietly hurting them the most. Psychologists call it compulsive self-sufficiency, a deep, often unconscious belief that needing help is dangerous, not inconvenient, dangerous. Because as a child, help wasn't reliably there when they needed it, so somewhere along the way, their brain concluded, if I don't rely on anyone, I can't be let down. Here's the trap. This isn't the same as healthy independence. Healthy independence is a choice. This is closer to a reflex, an inability to receive support even when it's freely, genuinely offered, which creates a strange, almost tragic irony. These are often the exact people everyone else leans on in a crisis, who would never, under any circumstance, dial someone else's number when they're the one falling apart. If you're the one everyone calls when things go wrong, but you'd never let anyone see you struggling, comment same below. I guarantee you're not the only one. Here's the twist I promised you, and it might be the most counterintuitive thing in this entire video. You'd assume that someone who worked this hard, this young, would crave rest more than anyone alive. They do want it. But an enormous number of these adults report something bizarre. The moment they actually get a chance to slow down, they feel deeply uncomfortable, almost guilty, sometimes even panicked. Why would rest feel threatening? Psychologists point to something called identity fusion with productivity. When a child's entire sense of value gets built around being helpful and responsible, their self-worth literally fuses with output. So doing nothing doesn't feel peaceful to that identity. It feels like disappearing. Like some deep, unspoken part of them stops mattering the second they stop being useful. This is why so many of these adults can be exhausted to the bone and still can't sit still. It's not a scheduling problem. It's not laziness or its opposite. It's an identity that was never taught. It's allowed to simply exist without earning the right to. Did that one land? Drop a below if rest genuinely makes you uncomfortable, even when your body is begging for it. Here's a pattern that quietly wrecks relationships later in life, and almost nobody connects it back to this root cause. Kids normally learn to understand their own feelings through something psychologists call co-regulation, a parent naming and soothing a child's emotions until the child can eventually do it alone. But when a child spends their early years soothing the adults around them instead, that process runs in reverse. The result shows up decades later as a strange, almost invisible gap. Someone who can read a room in seconds and manage everyone else's emotional state instantly and skillfully, but who genuinely freezes when asked the simplest possible question, "How are you feeling right now?" They became fluent in everyone else's emotional language. Their own remained mostly untranslated. Last insight, and honestly, I think it's the one that matters most. It would be easy to frame everything we just covered as pure damage. But psychologists studying resilience found something surprising, something called post-traumatic growth. Real psychological strength that develops because of, not despite, difficult early experiences. A huge number of people who grew up too fast develop extraordinary empathy because they learn to read pain accurately, young. They develop genuine crisis competence because chaos stopped being unfamiliar a long time ago. And many develop something rarer than people realize, a deep, hard-earned appreciation for calm and safety, because they know exactly, precisely, what the absence of it feels like. This isn't about glorifying what happened to them. Nobody should have had to grow up that fast. But what came out the other side, the empathy, the steadiness, the quiet strength, that's real. And it deserves to be seen, not just the exhaustion sitting underneath it. So if you're someone who grew up too fast, the tiredness makes sense now. The trouble asking for help makes sense. The discomfort with rest, the fluency in everyone's emotions except your own, none of that was ever a personality flaw. It was a childhood that asked too much of you, too early, before you had any real choice in the matter. And if you made it all the way here, through a full psychological breakdown instead of scrolling past 3 minutes ago, that tells me something about you too. You're someone who actually wants to understand yourself, not just push through and cope silently. That's exactly the kind of mind this channel is built for. Every week I break down the hidden psychology behind everyday things, habits, traits, relationships, the way people think without even realizing it. If that's your kind of content, hit subscribe now, because next week's video digs into something even more surprising. And honestly, I think it might explain you even better than this one did. See you in the next one.